I'm the Artistic Director at Dance Cleveland, and today I'm so excited because we are joined by the amazing, iconic Dianne McIntyre.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming today, Dianne.
Well, I'm very happy to be here today.
Yeah, well,
Yes.
we wanted to get started. You know, obviously, we've known you for a very long time.
Yes.
But some of our viewers don't know you.
Mm-hmm.
We wanted to get started by just talking a little bit about your background. I mean, you're a Cleveland native, which is very special. It's not every day that we get someone on our stage who grew up here in Cleveland and has had an amazing career as you have. But tell us what happened in the beginning. How did you start getting into dance?
Well, I started dancing around the house when I was a little child, and my parents saw that, wow, she's got dance in her. So my father knew Elaine Gibbs.
Okay.
When she married was Elaine Gibbs Redmond. He knew that she had studied dance and that she wanted to teach dance. So they took me to Elaine. My mother said, yes, take her to Elaine. So I was one of her first students.
Wow.
And with Elaine Gibbs, we had classes in ballet and also tap and some acrobatics.
Oh, wow.
And the classes were first at Corey Church.
Okay. And where's that at?
It's in the Glenville area. It's
Okay.
on 105th.
Okay.
It's on 105th, near one of those streets over there.
Yeah.
And it was actually only 2 blocks from where we lived.
That's convenient.
Yeah, so I just walked over there. I walked over there. In those days, children could walk just freely. I was 5,
Wow.
6. What I meant is freely, of course, children could walk, but it was not danger. Like, oh my goodness, can they walk 6, 7, 10 blocks around the neighborhood? Yeah, it was okay. You just go.
And did you dance there? Did you dance on your way to dance class?
No, I just walked to class. And then we also had concerts there. Our
Okay.
recitals were at Corey Church.
Wow.
Corey has a big, beautiful auditorium, and we had our classes in the gymnasium, and then our recitals were there. That's how I got started.
Yeah.
So when I was in elementary school, same time I'm studying with Elaine Gibbs, we had an after-school program. And the after-school program was for the arts. Had drama, music, and dance. And the after-school program, I guess different schools fed into it because some of the classes were at our school, Rickoff, and some were in other locations.
Oh, cool.
And it was organized by Murtis Taylor. Murtis Taylor, now there's a center called Murtis Taylor Center. At that time, it was called the Mount Pleasant Community Center. So we had classes in dance. So I signed up for the dance classes. And my teacher was Virginia Dryansky. Virginia was a beautiful dancer, and she taught us modern dance. That was when I first got into modern dance. I guess I started when I was 8.
Okay. That's a pretty young age to start modern dance. I feel like nowadays a lot of students don't even learn modern at that age.
That's right. I didn't know it was unusual, but it was different style than what I had with Elaine. And both of those teachers encouraged me to choreograph. And Virginia was also a dancer with the Karamu dancers.
And so then when did you start dancing with Karamu?
That was not until I was in college. So, but before then, I was a scholarship student with the Cleveland Modern Dance Association.
That's right, yes. And that is, Dance Cleveland was formerly Cleveland Modern Dance Association.
Yes.
That's what we were founded as.
Yes.
And so I think it's so amazing that, you know, you got to be a scholarship student.
Yes.
And now here we are, how many years later, and we're presenting your company and your full-length piece.
Yes.
Which is very special to me.
Yes.
So, well, tell us more about that.
So the Cleveland Modern Dance Association had special workshops and master classes with the most renowned dance legends.
I think they had a Jose Limon class.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so I got to take classes with those legends right here in Cleveland. They also did performances However, what I remember most are the classes.
And we
the
still
workshops.
have master classes today. So
Yes.
every time we bring an artist, we always make sure that we have a master class. So we don't have a full, daily school anymore like we used to back then. But the master classes are still very important, and we're excited because you'll be able to host a master class for us.
Yes.
For those who would like to take part, they can take a master class on Friday evening. And so again, you got to come to the classes as a kid, and I think it's so great that you'll get to teach one now.
Now I get to teach one so many years later. I may have taught a couple of those classes when I would come back from New York to visit, because I always remained friends with a number of people who originated the Cleveland Modern Dance Association. We've kept up with each other over the years.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
Yes.
Well, I know, I think you've trained with so many different dancers in the Cleveland area and choreographers and teachers when you were younger. I know you trained with Joan Harshorn at Caramoo, and Joan was actually my very first modern dance teacher when I was in high school.
Really?
And when I found that out, I thought that was such a special connection, because you just don't know all the different, layers and pieces that connect until you have a conversation like this. So
where was that?
That was at Beck Center. I actually grew up going to Beck Center in Lakewood, and Joan was teaching there at the time. So.
Oh, beautiful!
Yeah, I know, another full circle moment.
So when I was in college, I went to the Ohio State University, was in the dance department.
And you're one of the very first graduates of the Ohio State University's dance program, my understanding.
I am one of the first to receive the Bachelor of Fine Arts in Dance.
That's amazing.
The dance department the dance program started years before I got that degree.
Okay.
But it was folded inside of physical education.
Wow.
But the people didn't take any physical education classes. They were only taking dance classes.
Yeah.
And they became many of them renowned dancers through that program. But the BFA program started in 1969.
Okay.
And I was one of the first people to get that degree.
That's amazing.
And when I would come home to Cleveland in the summers, then I studied at Caramoo.
Okay.
And Joan Hartshorn was my teacher.
Wow.
She was really tough. She still is. And she would just point out particular things in my technique that I paid attention to that helped expand me even beyond the wonderful training I was already receiving.
So what about Cleveland? I mean, you went on to Ohio State, of course, and then you moved to New York, and you had your own company, Sounds in Motion. You were choreographing for other companies. So I feel like you made that transition from dancer to choreographer, although you were always a choreographer. Tell me a little bit more about like your time in New York, and what is it about Cleveland that maybe you felt like you brought to New York with you?
Okay, well, first I have to say that I started choreographing as a child because I was encouraged to do that through Elaine Gibbs Redmond and also Virginia Dryansky. I did my own productions at 7. Okay, so that's something I carried all the time. When I was at Ohio State, I said, oh, I've been always choreographing since I was a little child. Do I really have any talent for that? So I found that was true, that I did have a knack for choreography. I found that out from my professors there, and they encouraged my choreography. So when I went to New York, I went there actually to study more with some of the guest artists. The guest artists that I had studied with at Ohio State, who maybe they were there for 3 weeks or so.
Sure.
And some I had studied with at the Cleveland Modern Dance Association. I went there for study, and I had a part-time job in the dance collection, now called the Jerome Robbins Dance Division.
Okay.
That's where I worked part-time so I could pay for my dance classes.
And I think people don't realize how many dancers have multiple jobs.
Yeah.
And are working so hard all the time.
Yes.
Just so that they continue their craft. Yeah.
Yes. That's what happens. And in that city, there were all kinds of jobs you could have part-time in order to keep up with your dance or your acting or whatever your art is. So while I was working there, I took classes with numerous brilliant choreographers, dance teachers, Viola Farber, Gus Solomons Jr., who I also ended up dancing with his company.
Yeah.
So he was a very strong mentor to me. And I took classes at Cunningham and Graham and wherever I had to just take those classes, and also with Judith Dunn and Bill Dixon. Judith Dunn had been a Cunningham choreographer, a Cunningham dancer, and she collaborated with her associate, Bill Dixon, who is a musician.
Okay.
And I love that connection between them, and it sparked something in me. Now that was when I was at Ohio State. When I got to New York, I met musicians who were of the same ilk as Bill Dixon. They were in a category of what people might call jazz, but it was called new music, it was called avant-garde, it was called free jazz, it was called free music. I just gravitated to that, and I first discovered it when I was studying with Bill Dixon.
And it just spoke to you.
It spoke
to you. It
me.
Illuminated something in you.
Yes. And so while I was taking dance classes in New York City, I discovered I would go and hear music in the clubs, in lofts, in concerts, and I also found out that there was a group of musicians rehearsing every week in Brooklyn, and they were not necessarily household names. And at the same time, they were completely, brilliantly amazing.
Wow.
So I asked them if I could come and listen to their music during their rehearsals. As they would be rehearsing, I would go in a corner and I would try to dance like they sounded.
Yeah.
And that was something like inspired my style.
Definitely. And you can see that today. I mean, I think when people come to see In the Same Tongue, that's just been central to your choreography and your style throughout the years. I don't think that's changed. And that's what's so special to it. But you can definitely see the music come to life through the dancers' bodies.
Oh, that's beautiful the way you say that. Yes. So because I started in my very first so how that group that rehearsed in Brooklyn, they were called the Master Brotherhood.
Okay.
They were brilliant musicians. Then when I did my very first concert in New York, a group concert, first I did a solo at Clark Center for the Performing Arts. It was called the New Choreographers Concert. I did a solo there, and the people who were on the panel actually were mentoring me, because I auditioned once. They said, "Yeah, you're pretty good." They're like, "Who are you?" I said, "I'm Dianne McIntyre." They're like, I had not studied with any of them.
Sure.
They were luminaries in the field. I said, "I'm from Ohio." They're like, "Ohio?" I said, "Yes, I got all of this from Ohio." So they put me on the concert after giving me a few notes. From there, I got the bug. I said, "Yes, now I want to do a group concert, because I've been choreographing my whole life. Let me figure out how I'm going to do a group concert."
You knew you could do it.
Yes, I knew I could do it. I could do it because they supported me as a choreographer from childhood at Ohio State, and now I was going to move forward. And that is when I became part of Clark Center for the Performing Arts, where I did my first solo, and they supported me in developing my group. I didn't know it was going to be a company at first. It was going to be a concert with a group of dancers.
And how long did you, so from that first concert of a group of dancers,
Yes.
how long did you end up having Sounds in Motion
Well,
as a company?
That first concert was in March of 1972. And then from there, we became a company, incorporated and all that. And I also ended up having my own dance studio, which was based in Harlem. We had rehearsed various different places until I got to renovate a space. And I did that until 1988.
Wow. And that's such an undertaking in itself.
Yes.
I mean, running a company
Mhm.
and choreographing and completely redoing a space and running a space. I mean,
Mhm.
there's so many aspects of that. I don't know how you did it all.
I don't know. It was just like, oh, I just love doing this. It was a lot of work and
Mhm.
also a lot of fun. A lot of the musicians, the dancers were amazing, and we also had classes at the studio.
Mhm.
We were the Sounds and Motion studio. Let's go up there and take classes. And then because I had my own space, I was thinking as a producer. So of course we had concerts
Mhm.
in the studio. I called them studio works.
Love that.
And some of the people were people in my company, my students, and also people from the outside. And
Mhm.
the only rule I had was their work had to be daring, and if they could, to have live music. They didn't have to, but if they could do that, bring that in.
And I feel like most of your work has live music. I mean, we're going to have
Mhm.
live music for In the Same Tongue, of course.
Yes.
And it's just such a central part
Mhm.
of who you are.
Yes, yes, that's that, and even the name of my company was, I'd say, was Sounds in Motion. Dance is music moving,
Mhm.
so it's the combination of the dance and the music. So it's not just my works are not just a dance company. It's
Right.
it's a company of artists who
Mhm.
are dancers and musicians.
Mhm.
Sometimes from the beginning, I always had the spoken word in there, poetry of
Mhm.
various different poets whose work I enjoyed. And then I also, while I was teaching classes, one of the people who came to audition to be a scholarship student, she says she actually was auditioning for the company, and that was Intozaki Shange. At that time, her name was already Intozaki. That was not her birth name. However, from a young age, Intozaki was her name. She was in class, a wonderful dancer. She had just come from the Bay Area, even though she was originally from Trenton and from St. Louis.
Mhm.
So she was in class. I guess she had already been to graduate school, maybe had already. She was one of the bunch of people in the classes, wonderful dancers in the classes. She was not Intozaki, the playwright, poet for colored girls who have considered suicide when the rainbow is enough. She was a dancer in my class.
Wow.
And I just enjoyed her energy, her presence. Then somebody said, oh my goodness, some of the people in class would rehearse with her afterwards, and it was the development of for colored girls.
Wow.
So we became friends and worked together as colleagues and buddies all over the years.
Yeah.
Yes. So
That definitely developed into a friendship, I'm sure.
yes. After she became famous, for Colored Girls, which was first it was on off Broadway and it was on Broadway. After that, they toured around the world. Didn't she come right back to dance class?
I love that.
Yeah.
She wanted to come take class with you again.
Yeah, she took classes with a number of people, but she came right back, and it wasn't like, oh my goodness, the people just, she came back like she's coming back to family. So that was comfortable for her.
And I think, Dianne, I feel like you have this presence about you that you make everyone feel comfortable.
Oh.
Like, you make everyone feel like family and welcome. And I mean, I think you are always so soft-spoken about your own work and own accomplishments because you've done so many amazing things. I mean, just everything you spoke about, but you've also choreographed for the movies and TV. And at the same time, you have such a humbleness.
Oh.
And I think people don't realize that we have this living star in our Cleveland community. And you've grown up in Cleveland, moved away, but now you're back in Cleveland.
Yes.
So I just wanted to share that because I think you don't boast enough.
Okay.
You've had such an amazing career, and I think we're so
Oh.
lucky to be able to see your work on the stage coming up.
Oh, thank you.
So I am gonna segue into In the Same Tongue.
Okay.
I want to talk a little bit about that for people that are coming to the show.
Mm-hmm.
What is the inspiration behind the work? And I know you've described that it can be difficult to kind of put it in a small amount of words, but what can people expect from the show?
Okay, what people can expect from the show is a semi-autobiographical statement from me about my connection with music.
Okay.
How music, maybe any choreographer might be able to say that, but my connection with the music has been so intimate and so central to the development of what I've been doing in my choreography. So originally that was my idea. The first version of this, I called it Speaking in the Same Tongue. And I meant the dance and music speaking, talking to each
one
other.
another.
And then it expanded because I also said yes, and I also have like this old-timey music, not just the modern music. And then I like I said yes, I have to put that in there because that's part of me too. And our composer, Deidre Murray, she went all the way, yes. We had conversations. Okay, what should do? We evolved it. I said, yes, I want something the old time. Then the first piece we do which we called Like a Train. I had the whole concept of the work.
And that's like
said,
a section of the work.
Yes, and she said, okay. I said, like a train, it's the opening. She said, but shouldn't the opening be like, dong, like dong, just hit. I said, you're right, Deidre, that's right. Just hit right away. She said, what should it sound like? I said, it should sound like a train. So that's the
So
name.
what happens first when you are creating a new piece, and because you're working so closely with the musician and the composer,
Yes.
do you have this vision of the movement first and the idea, and then you kind of bring the musician and the composer into the process with you, or do they the musician and the composer into the process with you, or do they propose the sound first and then you put the movement to the sound?
It's actually neither one of those.
Neither one of
Okay.
those. Okay.
First of all, the composer, who often is one of the musicians in the ensemble, in this instance, Deidre and I, she's not part of the ensemble, but she's the boss of the ensemble. We have discussions about the direction of the piece, about the direction of different segments. My great good fortune is that in my developing my work, the music is in the studio.
Wow. And that's so rare nowadays. I mean,
yes.
It's challenging sometimes to get live music in the studio, but it's also so special.
It's special. So that is how, sometimes if there's one composer, sometimes it could be one person in the studio who's the composer, and eventually it expands into an ensemble. What I hear the musicians doing, that inspires me. Okay, da-da-da, do this movement, and they're playing, and like, do this movement, da-da-da-da-da-da. They're figuring out what they're doing, and Deidre's saying, now it should sound more like this, da-da-da-da-da-da. And then they see what the dancers are doing, and she said, oh, I see, now the music should sound like this. It is, even the composition is a conversation.
So it's really there's no one leader. It's just woven together.
Yes, it's woven together with the choreographer and the composer.
Wow.
And also the dancers and the ensemble of musicians, they are in conversations too. Sometimes I have been working in certain music that the music may be very complex. Some of Deidre's is like that, very the dancers have to learn to hear the intricacies in the music, and the musicians have to learn the flow and the energy and the timing and the expression of the dancers. Therefore, sometimes we do have some parts that are improvisational,
Okay.
embedded in set composition, set choreography.
Wow.
Therefore, not just therefore, the musicians have to play with their eyes open.
That's got to be difficult for some musicians, I suppose.
Musicians I worked with years ago, it was new for them because they're in an ensemble more called like jazz,
Right.
and they are listening. They have maybe their music, but then the improvisational part, they're hearing each other, and they play off of each other by hearing, and they can do that with their eyes closed. However, with the dance, the dancers are part of the ensemble. They are other musicians.
Wow.
They're all part of the band. So they must be alert and have their eyes open. So this group already knew, this group of musicians already knew that because the lead musician, the musical director named Gerald Brazell, we worked together back in the late 90s.
Okay, so he was already aware of kind of your
Yes.
process and
Yes.
style.
Yes, so that worked. And Deidre Murray and I worked together even before that,
Wow.
where she was in an ensemble of another composer.
And I think that's why, you know, people don't realize how important relationships are. It's not
Yes.
like you can just meet someone for the first time, especially for your style of work and the way that you create. I think it would be rather difficult to just jump into a studio and say, okay, we're going to get started. I feel like that's got to take years of getting to know one another's style before you really can just mesh and communicate in that way.
Yes, that's true. However, there are, if people are in a university or even in a high school where they collaborate with the dancers and the music program, they can make that connection right away. They just have to be egoless. So they both are giving and taking from each other.
From the process.
And sometimes it can be a magical hit, even if you haven't known each other for a long time.
Yeah.
So
Well, we're excited to have some of our local dancers here from Cleveland as part of the piece. I know this piece has had, just in the same way that you create, it's always moving and changing, right? And so this piece, in the same tongue, has had different iterations and different versions, if you will. And I feel like our Cleveland version, I might be biased, but I think ours might be the best because we're going to have the Cleveland dancers as part of the piece as well. How do you anticipate mixing, you know, local dancers with dancers from New York and all over that you've worked with?
Well, when I started this piece, which we first experimented with it in New York City, and even then I put two, I'd say local dancers, but at that time everybody was living in New York. But I had two dancers who were not the core of the group.
Okay.
And I found them because I had worked with both of them in universities. One at Ohio State when she was a student, and the other one, oh, maybe I hadn't worked with her, but she was part of a university that I knew her professor. So I said, oh, that's nice. I have this part where I bring in additional people. So I've done that continuously. The one thing about the Cleveland, I don't know, this is a little story, it might be too long, but the Cleveland dancers have something of Cleveland in their DNA in terms of their training, their back, but not even just their training, there's something else that's Cleveland.
I love that.
So when they come in to be part of this, they bring that background. One time I was teaching a class, I think it might have been, it was at Mather Dance through Catherine Carapides.
Sure, Case.
Yes, I was teaching a master class there. And the students were from different parts of the country. They weren't necessarily, because they were
they're in a university.
They're in a university. The thing is, there were a couple of people in that class that I was doing some things that were maybe what you might call the kind of dance you do when you're growing up, like social dances.
Okay.
There were a couple of people in the class that looked just like me. Here, they were like 20 years younger than me. I said, well, they're from Cleveland.
And you could tell right away.
Yes.
That's so special.
Yes. So they'll bring their dance DNA, their Cleveland dance DNA into this. And I'm so happy. And all of them they're all wonderful, wonderful dancers. So that is a beautiful connection.
That's going to be amazing. Well,
yes.
To end our conversation, what is the one thing that you hope people take away when they leave the theater after seeing the show?
Okay, the one thing I want them to take away is that they can be daring in their lives, no matter what it is that they do. They'll see this collaboration happening on stage. They'll hear it, they'll feel it in their bodies, they'll hear it in their heads, in their ears, and in their eyes. And then say they work in the business field.
Sure.
Then their next day, they might be inspired to say, maybe we've been doing it like this for years. Maybe there's another way. Let's switch like this because I saw these people improvising last night and da 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 da, and they just flew off the stage. Somehow I always like that there's an inspiration that happens from the choreography, from the music, from the poetry, that it somehow just descends and envelops the people in the audience, and they carry forward with them something in their own lives that takes them to another place, some place they wouldn't have thought of before.
Yeah.
That's what always is my idea, that inspires people to do beyond what they have been just doing or experiencing every day.
Oh, well, I'm so excited to see it, especially after that description. We are so excited. November 15th, if anyone needs tickets, we still have great tickets available. And again, the masterclass will be Friday evening before the show. So thank you so much, Dianne, for joining us, and just thank you for being who you are and bringing all this to our community.
Yes, and thank you for bringing In the Same Tongue here to Cleveland.
Of course.